And to our update on the war in Gaza, 5 more Palestinians have been killed by Israeli forces in a second day of raids in the occupied West Bank, with the UN calling for a de-escalation. The Israel Defense Forces say there were 5 terrorists who had hidden inside a mosque in Tulkarm near the boundary with Israel. Israel began what it said was a major counter-terrorism operation in the West Bank on Wednesday, and there have been conflicting details as the operation unfolded across multiple cities. We have more details in this report.
United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres has called on Israel to immediately halt its operation, saying it was fueling an already explosive situation. He urged Israeli forces to exercise maximum restraint and use lethal force only when it is strictly unavoidable. The IDF said the 5 Palestinians were killed after exchanges of fire in Tulkarm. The deaths came on the second day of what Israeli media say could be a days-long operation. The Israeli military said it also made arrests and seized weapons. Homes and infrastructure were damaged in the attacks, Palestinians said. It is the largest such action in the West Bank since the days of the Second Palestinian Uprising 2 decades ago. At least 10 Palestinians killed in Israeli raids in West Bank. Israel's ambassador to the United Nations, Danny Danon, said the operation has a clear goal: preventing Iranian terror by proxy that would harm Israeli civilians. In recent days, Israeli politicians have accused Iran, which backs both Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad, of trying to smuggle in explosive devices with the aim of attacking Israel. There has been a spike in violence in the West Bank since Hamas's 7th October attack on Israel and the subsequent war in Gaza. EU Foreign Policy Chief Joseph Borrell said Israel's operation in the West Bank must not constitute the premises of a war extension from Gaza.
Joining us to discuss the ongoing conflict in the Middle East is a global affairs analyst, Amuda Mushibodi. It's good to have you join us on The World Now.
Thank you so much, Father.
So when you look at the recent calls that have been made, not just the United Nations, but the international community in general, would you say the recent call by the head of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, really holds any weight?
Unfortunately, I do not think that it will hold any weight, given the fact that some members of the Security Council, like the United States, France, and Great Britain, are definitely cap in hand with Israel. As much as they may come out to condemn what is happening, the humanitarian crisis that Israel is facing in the West Bank, unfortunately, it is all mouth and trousers because they are not walking the talk. Now, we see what Israel is doing. Yes, you are giving tacit support to Israel and its expansionist policy. So the United Nations Secretary General can come out to condemn it. But as long as some members of the Security Council cannot take a unanimous position on this, condemning it also and walking the talk about it, what we'll keep having is these, what I'll call optic condemnation, but nothing serious will happen. So I do not feel that that condemnation coming from the UN chief will make any difference in what is happening in Gaza at the moment.
And, you know, there have been concerns by Palestinian, even politicians, who say perhaps Israel is trying to move the war from Gaza to the West Bank. What do you make of this?
That's just the reality. Look at what has happened. Since the killing of Ismail Haniyeh in just some weeks back, to how Israel seems to be trying to wrap up the whole crusade, as I may want to call it, or project, you will see that there is this speed that has taken place. And that may not be unconnected to the fact that Israel is also saying that, well, if there is a change in government in the United States, it may not get that kind of support that it is getting at the moment. So it wants to wrap up the war quickly. And so it's spreading its tentacles to almost everywhere that it could. So you see the movement from the Gaza Strip to West Bank, and even extending beyond that, we've seen how Ismail Haniyeh was killed in a hostile country like Iran, and how that could spiral out of control. We've seen the crisis with Lebanon. We've seen how, the whole Middle East region is being caught up in this maddening rush by Israel as a state. So it's quite unfortunate. And I want to agree with Palestinian politicians that Israel is definitely spreading its tentacles beyond Gaza Strip to other areas. Just to wrap up the war, good time is over.
And to what you also talked about, the role of the United States in this. So many persons have been, raising their eyebrows as to where the United States stands on this. The United States has also urged Israel to, take feasible measures to protect civilians in the West Bank. In terms of the contribution of the international community to this war, would you say there is a possibility of an end soon?
There cannot be a possibility of an end because the approach of these major players in all of this is not a good one. Now, if you want to compare what is happening, for instance, to the way Israel is taking a stance against, America is taking a stance against Israel compared to how the response to Venezuela, you see that there's a whole lot of gap. There's a whole lot of difference in the methodology. So you cannot be using the stick on one and then be using deodorant on the other. So as long as there's this half-hearted commitment to it, we cannot have a resolution to it. What we'll keep having is that Israel will be tactically emboldened to go more and more into this conquest that it's engaging in, and the West will just keep talking without any action supporting it.
Global Affairs Analyst Amuda Moshibodi, thank you for joining us on The World Now.
Thank you for having me.